World War II is remembered for tanks, for bombs, for cities turning into ashes, for millions of soldiers marching across continents. But the most dangerous weapon of the war was not made of steel. It was silent, light, weightless. It was money. Inside Nazi Germany, a plan was born. Not to bomb Britain, not to invade it, but to collapse it from the inside. Not with explosions, but with trust. Deep inside a concentration camp, behind layers of barbed wire, concrete walls, and armed guards, the Nazis built something unprecedented. A secret factory, not to make weapons, but to print perfect British banknotes. Not thousands, not tens of thousands, hundreds of millions of pounds. Enough money to poison an economy, enough to shatter confidence, enough to bankrupt an empire. This operation was called Operation Bernhard, and it came closer to success than almost anyone realizes. To understand why this plan was so dangerous, you must understand one fundamental truth about money. Money has no value on its own. It is not gold. It is not silver. It is not paper. Money is belief. A banknote works only because people trust it. The moment that trust disappears, money becomes useless. Banks fail. Markets panic. Societies collapse. The Nazis already knew this because they had lived through it themselves. After World War I, Germany was crushed by war debt and reparations. To survive, the German government printed money endlessly. By 1923, inflation spiraled out of control. A loaf of bread cost millions of marks, then billions, then trillions. Workers were paid twice a day so they could rush to shops before prices doubled again. People burned stacks of cash because it was cheaper than firewood. Middle-class families lost everything. Life savings vanished overnight. An entire society collapsed, not because of bombs, but because of paper. The Nazis never forgot this lesson. They learned something terrifying. A country does not need to be invaded to be destroyed. Destroy its money, and the country destroys itself. Now look at Britain in the 1940s. Britain was fighting a total war. Every tank required steel. Every plane required fuel. Every soldier required food, weapons, and wages. All of it required money. The British pound was not just Britain's currency. It was one of the most trusted currencies on earth, used by international banks, held by governments, accepted by traders across the world. Britain imported food from Canada, oil from the Middle East, and weapons from the United States, all paid for with pounds. If trust in the pound collapsed, Britain would be unable to buy supplies. Ships would stop arriving. Factories would slow down. Soldiers would go unpaid. The war could be lost without a single German soldier ever stepping onto British soil. So the Nazis asked a horrifying question. What if we destroy the pound itself? In 1942, the SS officially approved the plan. They named it Operation Bernhard. The man placed in charge was Major Bernhard Kruger. He was not a loud fanatic. He was not a battlefield commander. He was calm, precise, obsessive. Kruger understood one thing. If the fake money was even slightly imperfect, the entire operation would fail. The banknotes had to be indistinguishable from the real thing. So where do you build a factory for the world's greatest counterfeiting operation? Not in Berlin, not in a government mint. You hide it somewhere no one will ever look. Inside a concentration camp. Sachsenhausen, a place built for death. Watchtowers, searchlights, electric fences. And inside this nightmare, the Nazis gathered around 140 prisoners. Not ordinary prisoners, experts. Master engravers who could copy microscopic lines. Artists who understood shading and depth. Printers who knew pressure and alignment. Chemists who understood ink. Accountants who understood serial numbers. Most of them were Jewish. They were given a choice: work for the Reich or die. Their survival depended on perfection. British banknotes were among the most secure in the world. They were printed on linen-based paper, not ordinary wood pulp. They contained complex watermarks that shifted under light. Serial numbers followed hidden mathematical patterns. The engravings were so fine that even magnification revealed nothing crude. Every detail mattered. The prisoners worked under constant threat. Mistakes meant beatings. Failure meant execution. They experimented endlessly. Paper thickness, fiber composition, ink chemistry, printing pressure. Months passed. Then something incredible happened. They succeeded. The counterfeit notes were flawless. German agents tested them in neutral countries. They passed. They were deposited into real banks. They passed. Even British financial financial experts could not reliably tell which notes were real and which were fake. At that moment, Britain's financial system was officially compromised.
Now comes the scale of the operation. Operation Bernhard was not small. Historians estimate at least £132 million were printed. Some estimates go as high as £300 million in the 1940s. Adjusted for modern value, that equals many billions of dollars today. Britain's total money supply was not large enough to absorb this amount of fake currency safely. If released suddenly, it would cause inflation. Banks would face runs. People would hoard goods. Confidence would evaporate. Once panic begins, it feeds on itself. The original Nazi plan was dramatic. German aircraft would drop fake pounds over British cities. Millions of banknotes falling from the sky. People would grab them, spend them, deposit them. Banks would be flooded. No one would know what money could be trusted. Hyperinflation, engineered by the enemy. But the plan never reached that stage, not because it was unrealistic, not because it failed technically.
Because Germany lost air superiority, the Luftwaffe could no longer reach Britain safely, so the Nazis adapted. Instead of destroying Britain overnight, they used the money quietly. The counterfeit pounds funded espionage networks. They paid spies across Europe. They financed SS operations, purchased weapons on black markets, bought strategic materials under the table. Fake money was used to fuel very real violence. Inside Sachsenhausen, the prisoners understood something else. Once the war ended, or once the Nazis no longer needed them, they would be killed to erase all evidence. So they resisted in the only way they could. They slowed the process, introduced microscopic flaws, created delays that were almost invisible, enough to survive, enough to fight back silently. Sabotage measured in millimeters. After the war, the full truth was uncovered. British officials were stunned by how close disaster had come. So much fake currency existed that the Bank of England made an unprecedented decision. Every banknote above £5 was withdrawn from circulation. Millions of notes were destroyed. Britain redesigned its entire currency system to restore trust. Operation Bernhard proved something chilling. Wars are not fought only with guns. They are fought with confidence, with belief, with numbers on paper. Money is trust, and trust can be weaponized. If you want to understand real power, do not study battles alone. Study money, because sometimes the deadliest weapon in war is not a bomb. It is a banknote. This is money through time.